Well, to Melbourne now, where the state's track record for keeping the Jewish community safe isn't looking too good. In recent weeks, we've seen anti-Semitic protests outside Melbourne City Hall, where Jews were violently pushed to the ground by pro-Palestinian activists. Now we learn of a not-for-profit Palestinian organisation using terrorist propaganda to promote a censorship-free art event in Melbourne's CBD tomorrow. Sky News reporter Caroline Marcus reports they posted this image of two hijab-wearing women holding up rifles against a backdrop of the map of Israel. The post reads, "If you're looking for a censorship-free space to install, display, demonstrate or perform your art, please reach out." And joining me now live to discuss this is the chairman of the civil rights organisation Anti-Defamation Commission, Dvir Abramovich. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Look, take us through it, because they've been given permission by the City of Melbourne to host this event in the centre of the city during International Women's Day tomorrow, all while using this propaganda, as we've just shown, to promote it.
Good evening, good to be with you. Look, before I address this question, I just want to tell something to your viewers and to anyone out there who still doesn't get it. The situation for the Jewish community here is very bad. We're not okay, it's terrible. We find ourselves in a terrifying world of hatred where the harassment of Jews, targeting, doxing, and singling out of anybody who supports Israel is going through the roof. We have never seen anything like this kind of horror show in our history. And people are frightened. And I've spoken to Holocaust survivors who have gone through the evil of Hitler and the extermination camps. And they have said to me that the level of hostility and aggression against the Jewish community frightens them, and it's something that they've never seen. And as somebody who fights anti-Semitism 24/7, I have to tell you that I've never been more fearful than I am now about what the future holds. This is not normal. This craziness has to stop. Now, with regards to this event, look, it's just another example of the violent and dangerous rhetoric of the anti-Israel movement, which is becoming much more radical and is turning our streets into battlefields. And these are people who glorify the October 7th massacre of Hamas, the largest mass murder of Jews since the Holocaust. And they're doing it openly. They are celebrating the rape and the murder and the torture of women, the beheading of babies, the extermination of more than 400 innocent Israelis. And yet we have the Melbourne City Council allowing this outrage to happen.
Well, this is what I just don't understand. I mean, you've just described just how awful it is right now in Melbourne as a Jewish person to hear what you're living through in the year 2024. And yet the City of Melbourne says that they're going to closely monitor that art and remove anything that incites hatred. But yet they haven't come out and condemned this group. Are they turning a blind eye to it?
Well, since October 7th, one of the things that I think has hit hardest the Jewish community is the fact that people that we thought were our neighbors, friends, advocates and champions have completely abandoned us. This moral blindness, this walking away instead of locking arms and protecting the Jewish community is a stain that will never be removed and will never be forgotten. And I call on the City of Melbourne to show some moral backbone, to say to the Jewish community, you do count, we do care, and we are going to fight. Look, this particular flyer is a call for arms. It's a call for the destruction of the State of Israel, for the killing of every man, woman, and child. And this cannot stand. This insanity has to stop. This is not the Melbourne that I know and love. And I speak to Jewish students on campus, for instance, who have told me, we are afraid to set foot on campus. We do not feel safe. And this is a moral moment in our country where we need our elected representatives, whether it is the Lord Mayor, whether it is the Premier, whether it is the Prime Minister, to come out and push back against the evil of anti-Semitism.
Well, I note that you've actually called for the council to revoke permission for this gathering. You've tried to reach out to them. Have they responded at all to any of your concerns here?
We've had no response, and this is par for the course with most of the institutions that we've approached. There seems to be a complete lack of concern for the Jewish community, a dismissal. And by the way, this week we commemorated 150 days since the October 7th atrocities. We still have 134 hostages being held by Hamas, and nobody seems to care. You know, tomorrow we are celebrating International Women's Day, and the message for Jewish women is, you do not matter. We are told that we need to believe women who have been sexually assaulted and raped unless they are Israeli women. And the fact that we've got these so-called women's organizations and feminist leaders who are supposed to be advocating and are supposed to be standing strong with women, turning a complete blind eye, not caring, not condemning, not issuing any statements about the despicable sexual assaults against Israeli women, is something that we will never forget.
It's just so sad. And as I said, we're living in 2024 here. And just on that, as you mentioned, this week marks 150 days since those attacks. You've detailed in our conversation that there's been an explosion in anti-Semitism here in Australia. Why aren't our governments doing more to actually put an end to this, do you think?
I think we're getting a lot of empty rhetoric. I think we're getting words, but we're not getting action. And it comes back to the old issue of the Jewish community matters. Anti-Semitism, and by the way, anti-Semitism is not just a problem for the Jewish community. This hatred, this radicalism, this violence, it may begin with the Jews, but it won't end with the Jews. This is a whole of society challenge. And we've seen what those anti-Israel extremists have done. They've turned our lives upside down. We don't need to wait for the kind of violence that we saw in Israel to erupt on our streets, to take these threats seriously. And as I said to you, I have never been more worried about the state of the Jewish community, but also about the level of radicalism that we see spreading like wildfire throughout our nation.
Yeah, it's just absolutely shocking to see. Dvir, Abramovich, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this evening.